cannot believe I didn't go to Carnival this year. You get so envious seeing all the pictures of social media and everything.
You gotta be a real idiot to not go to Carnival.
Are you saying that because you didn't go to Carnival?
I'm a fool!
Oh boy. Well, I mean, it's just one of those times that makes you think that Americans could really learn a lot from Brazilians.
I think America needs a big old notepad and should just be taking notes from Brazilians about how to live. Like just the idea of Carnival, the fact that on the level of infrastructure, like it's a nationally supported institution.
Well, it's a period made to have fun, and they know how to do it. What would happen if we took 1 million Americans and substituted them for Brazilians at Rio Carnival, for example?
It would be over by noon. Everybody would be in the hospital. Because Americans, I feel like there's more of this, they're not...
Hard drinking kind of a thing?
Yeah, they drink to medicate. And Brazilians are drinking as like a little bit of extra flavor, but they already have the cake.
Well, here's another thing related to Carnival that we could really learn something from. There's like 1,000 songs that every Brazilian knows. Like, and you're a Carnival, and everyone starts singing. You're like, how does everybody know this song? And then the next song comes on, and then how does everybody know this song? And then the next song from 30 years earlier comes on, and everyone still knows it, no matter how old they are. We have a few songs like that. Maybe?
We have the birthday song.
Yeah.
It is a nice feeling when you're in that massive sea of people and they're all singing the same song.
This land is your land.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From
That's like a folk song. So some folk songs people seem to know here.
Are pop hits, right? If like maybe a Katy Perry song or something.
Well, but I don't think so, because I don't think an 80-year-old would know those.
Yeah, I have a hard time imagining an 80-year-old singing California girls, they're unforgettable.
Maybe like some Beatles. The Beatles aren't even American. Ah, god damn. Rolling Stones, no! Elvis, maybe?
But the young people won't know it.
Oh, that's true. Ugh. No, I don't think Brazilians are overall like happier in their day-to-day lives than Americans. I don't know who's happier, but they have a default attitude of being positive when they meet a stranger or when they meet a friend. They're just very good at, hey, great to see you, or hey, excuse me, can I ask you a question? Like,
it's like a new person is a plus. Like it's a good thing, you know, compared to some Americans are happy to see you, but some Americans, you don't feel like they're so happy to see you.
Well, even if you're friendly, you'd be like, hey, what's up, man? Like, that's not what a Brazilian says. No Brazilian says, hey, tudo bem, bom te ver. You know, they give you a abraço, and they, you know, and people are just positive. Even if they're unhappy, I guess you could say that's fake, like you're having a really bad day, but you're still happy. But I think that's just like the grease of society. It moves society along. People are positive. If you're positive, if someone smiles at you, then you have a slightly better day. And I think people smile at each other more.
I feel like it's genuine a lot of the time that they are happy to see you. And also, I think there's, like, whenever you see someone and they greet someone and you're doing maybe a kiss on the cheek or a hug or something, you're actually physically touching more. Man, like, science of...
Is on the Brazilian side?
Is on the side of the Brazilians. I think when you touch someone, like through a hug or a beijo, which you do all the time, I think you're overall, like, human beings need that contact.
Right. So you might say that Cariocas are more human than Paulistas because they give 2 kisses instead of 1, so they're better off. And then somewhere there's 3 kisses.
Yeah, there's parts of France that have 3 kisses.
I think there's a part of France that has 5 kisses.
Take me to that part of France, baby!
These are kisses on the cheek, Eric, by the way.
I don't want to go.
Brazilians are always saying, oh, Americans are so cold. And I never really think that's true, but one of the ways it kind of is true is how physical people are with each other. That doesn't mean, however, that we should learn how to have our arms around our girlfriends 100% of the time, no matter what the circumstance in any social situation.
Yeah, but then you never lose her in a supermarket.
What? Have you had that problem here, losing a girlfriend in a supermarket?
I had this great girlfriend, and one time I took her to the supermarket, and then she just, you know, got lost in the fruit section.
That's a real story?
No. Speaking of, like, of alcohol and warmth.
Is that why you drink, Eric? To feel good inside?
A bar in the States is so much sadder than a boteco.
Yeah.
Because a bar, it's like, first of all, there's no windows, and it's inside, it's closed off. Whereas a boteco is out in the open, and it feels like you see families, you see kids sometimes at a boteco. It's just sort of this thing that you're not ashamed of. I feel like a bar is where you go to be a little bit ashamed.
Right. So even in LA, there's not outside bars very often.
Not a lot, no.
Wow.
Well, part of it is it's illegal to have alcohol outside of a building.
Well, there's another thing we could learn from the Brazilians, right? How about being allowed to drink in the street? Well, New Orleans has learned.
I've been to countries that are majority Muslim countries that you're allowed to drink on the street, and people are having a better time over there than we are.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it's just the vibe of a bar is you're going there to awkwardly try to have a romantic encounter, or to sadly sit alone and watch a TV.
Right, that's here, right? Yeah.
That's America.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Brazil, you go to a boteco, it's a different energy. It's a fun, good, positive energy where you're out there to have a good time with no apologies and no sadness.
Right. Well, speaking of institutions that Brazilians have that we could use here, I've said it before, but I can't resist saying it. Self-service. Restaurantes tipo quilo.
Do they say self-servicey?
Yeah, self-service. You've never heard that?
No.
The funny thing is, that's not what self-service means in the U.S. Self-service is like in a gas station where you pump your own gas.
That's right.
But it would never be in a restaurant like a buffet. We would call it a buffet.
Well, food is gas for the body, Seth.
Well, that's true. Pay by weight, something like that. And we have them sometimes, but they're usually terrible. And often they're all-you-can-eat only. And our all-you-can-eat stuff here is always horrible. Because they expect, Americans, of course, will eat so much that they put out the lowest quality food. So I would never go to an all-you-can-eat place here. And I do have lunch at the Brazilian place near my apartment in New York. You get a salad, you get some meat, you take as much as you want, you don't take too much. It's just a no-brainer, and yet Americans seem to have no brains.
I think you're happy that you're in charge of how much farofa goes on that plate.
Well, speaking...
And I don't know if you should be allowed to decide how much farofa goes on your plate.
Well, farofa, I don't even need to bring it up, right? I brought it up before. Farofa...
Wait, Seth, did you like farofa, or did you not like farofa?
So obviously we need farofa, but you know what? I'm going to go a bit further. I think the mandioca, the manioc root, a lot of times we call it yuca, right? People in the United States don't really know how to use it, except for Latinos. There's so much that can be done. First of all, fried yuca is better than French fries.
Oof. Oh.
You don't disagree?
I agree.
Yeah.
I love it.
So much better. Mashed yuca is better than mashed. I hate mashed potatoes, so mashed yuca is definitely better than mashed potatoes. There's more substance to it. You don't agree?
I like mashed potatoes. I like them both.
And then there's all this other stuff you can make from yuca, right? Like tapioca. We don't have tapioca.
Oh, tapioca.
And tucupi. Well, not too many Brazilians eat tucupi. Do you know what it is?
No.
It's like a extract of mandioca that you use in like soups and stuff and on meat in the Amazon. Anyway, whatever.
So they use the yuca.
They use it for everything.
You can make a t-shirt that says use the yuca. Get a cafe!
I wish that Americans would make stronger coffee just so I didn't have to listen to Brazilians complaining about our coffee. That would be enough for me. I can't believe the battery ran out in the middle.
Classic babaquice.
So I guess we'll continue with the cell phone.
Yeah, why not?
What were we talking about? Kilos?
Self-service.
Selfie-service?
Selfie-service.
You know, that does bring up another point, that Brazilians have a bigger meal at lunch, and we, puta babacas, have a meal at dinner, so we can't digest it, and then we can't fall asleep, and then we get fatter. It's probably why we're fat.
Is that why we're fat? Maybe.
I don't think it's the only reason, but it certainly doesn't help. And I actually read recently that Americans also used to have the biggest meal at lunch when we were more of an agricultural society, and people were all home. They had a huge lunch so they could go out and work in the afternoon.
Yeah. I don't know if it's better or not. If I wanted to eat in lunch, I would maybe sleep afterwards.
Well, that's the siesta. Then you got to move to Spain.
Yeah, well, Spain's a pretty good country too.
you cannot deny that fruit juices are better in Brazil.
Oof. Oh my God. I love walking down the street.
Yeah.
I don't know why I have to show how I walk. I love walking down the street and going into a fresh squeezed fruit place, which is far more abundant.
Right.
I think all over, definitely in Rio, but even Sao Paulo and other
most
places.
cities. Well, the thing is that the default kind of juice is fresh squeezed juice. Like it's so unusual to have that in the United States that we have this awkward phrase, fresh squeezed juice. Like, no one even ever says that.
Personally, I prefer a little fresh squeezed Doli Guaraná Sabor Brasileiro.
Okay. Anyway, what else?
I like how comfortable they are with their bodies.
Yes. Well, we just have a repressed society.
Sad.
Just both your body and talking about sexual things in general. Not that every Brazilian is comfortable, not every American is uncomfortable, but in general, it's like such a taboo subject here. I remember when I was first going to Brazil, and my friend, we went to New Year's. A female friend of mine and I, came home. We was staying at her house. Her next day, the mom says, "How many guys did you kiss?" Like, what? We would never. No one's mother would ever say that.
My mother would never ask me how many ladies I've kissed.
Right.
Ever.
Well, of course, now we're going to get comments that say that not all Brazilian mothers are like that. But then you walk along the beach and people have no problem wearing a bikini, or guys wear the sunga, which shows maybe a bit too much of their anatomy, but nobody cares because it's natural, because that's a human body.
Because they're not there to show off.
Have you been to Rio?
Well,
Have you been to Ipanema?
I've been to other beaches, you know.
Right.
Like I've had Americans say, Brazilian beaches with the bikinis.
Right.
And I'm like, well, there's beautiful people in bikinis, but everybody's in the bikini.
Right.
Because it's comfortable.
Right.
And the value is...
Do you know that first person?
What is?
That a bikini is comfortable?
I like a bikini from time to time.
Okay. And also, by the way, just quickly, the beach culture, the fact that people actually socialize on the beach and that there's food available on the beach.
Right.
Whereas most American beaches, there's no food. You have to bring your own food, which is true in some Brazilian beaches, but almost no American beaches. And then people just sort of lie back and read a book or suntan and don't talk to each other. I guess here in Venice Beach.
Well, you get the cool Americans who get a basket and a blanket, maybe sneak a little bottle of wine in there,
Yeah.
and it's that's fun
Yeah.
to do, but there's not a culture of it.
Right.
Where you go to Brazil, it's nice because you've got the guy walking with selling the thing.
Queijo coalho,
There's a whole
açaí,
there's a whole
tapioca.
economy of stuff going on out there. It's really nice.
And by the way, people go to the beach more because Brazilians have more vacation than Americans.
I've heard this word before, vacation. What does it mean?
We are very famous for, even if we have vacation days, but there's no official law in the U.S. that says you need to give your employees vacation. In fact, did you know this? There's no federal law that forces employers to give Christmas off. In theory, you can make your employee work on Christmas. Now, there's some state laws that regulate that. In Brazil, it's not everybody, but if you have like an official job, like a what do they call it, carteira assinada or whatever, then you're entitled to 20 days, 30 days. I don't know the exact rule, but there's anything like that in the U.S. And in fact, 20 days vacation here would be a lot.
Like, what are you? You're superhuman if you're taking 20
And most
days
people
off.
wouldn't take it. Certainly having a vacation, requiring a vacation, which is not just Brazil, by the way, France, Germany, all kinds of England, lots of other countries do it.
Well, and aren't there more national holidays anyway, with more days that people take off? I would say that definitely Americans don't have enough days off.
Right, for
and,
sure.
And it makes for more stress and a sadder life.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that, I need to get to work. Let's get out of here.
Let's go be American and go not have a vacation.
All right, let's get out of here.
From